frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Hi, I'm Jonathan Frakes, and we're right here at Stage 9 in the Paramount lot where we're shooting the 2-hour finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation. The red light usually means stay out, because the cast and crew are shooting, don't want to be disturbed. But guess what? We're going in anyway. So I can take you behind the scenes and show you how the series is put together. And I'll show you some amazing things you may never have seen before. But before we go, where very few have gone before, let's look back over the 7 years and see how far we've come. To a long and successful voyage, the new crew of the Enterprise is on Buster. Let's see what's out there. You will now answer to the charge of being a grievously savage race. Hello, stranger. Welcome to the 24th century.
What happens to me in every timeline?
Resistance is futile. Red alert! Red alert! Red alert! Go power to shield! Can we render assistance? Security team approaching location. I'm here to help.
Turns out I can sense feelings in you.
Fix me. Laser shields. Lasers ready. Shield up. Fire phasers. Open fire. All weapons. Fire torpedoes. Let's make sure history never forgets. The name. Enterprise. What you just saw was some thrilling behind-the-scenes moments from the dramatic 2-hour finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And for the next hour, I'll be your host as we explore the world of Star Trek and discover how all the creative forces have made this series a success story. Although in one sense, this is the end of a remarkable era, a new chapter of this legacy has begun with the launch of the 7th Star Trek motion picture, starring all of us in The Next Generation, and some other very familiar faces. I'll talk more about that a little later. Right now, let's go back to where it all began. 1986, when Gene Roddenberry created the second installment from The Final Frontier. Captain's log, stardate 41153.7. Our destination is planet Deneb 4, beyond which lies the great unexplored mass of the galaxy. I didn't think for me personally that it would go much beyond the pilot. I've said before that for the first 6 weeks I literally lived out of a suitcase. I didn't unpack. So I was well prepared to be given the arm around the shoulder treatment. Let's see what this galaxy-class starship can do. We're gonna informate you room to prepare for maximum acceleration.
Can you imagine walking onto a set like this with these lights flickering and these computerized panels and these hallways and this sort of futuristic thing, and whatever we were doing would then be recorded as the way it was done. So it was extraordinary to sort of get familiar with this thing and with each other.
So they had Gene Roddenberry, they had the Star Trek franchise, and then they did a very wise thing. And I don't know how much of it was design and how much of it was fate, but they happened to have ended up with an amazing group of people, both in front of and behind the camera. Ready for departure, sir. No problem, Riker. Just hoping this isn't the usual way our missions will go, sir. Oh, no, number one. I'm sure most will be much more interesting. From the very beginning, there's been one man who has had a fresh perspective on the growth and development of each of our characters. Executive producer, Rick Berman. Writers do not create characters alone. They create them and hand them over to actors, and then together they develop these characters. And the characters and their interrelationships with one another continue to develop for the entire length of the series. And that's one of the fun things to see. Bridge to transporter room. Energize. Aye, sir. Fire torpedoes. Captain Picard was a very strong, commanding officer when we first met him, and he is when we are going to leave him at the end of the series. He has grown in the sense that he's developed very, very intimate relationships with a number of people who are his fellow crew members on the Enterprise. As we know how each of us feels, perhaps we should not be afraid to explore those feelings. Well, Beverly Crusher went through her periods of motherhood, rearing Wesley for a number of years and then having him leave. Beverly has become an integral part of a family of 7 very close characters, which she wasn't when we started.
When we found you were dying. I saved your life.
Why?
It's my duty to help those who are hurt.
I think Riker has grown a lot. He grew a beard, and I think he's become a more relaxed, more lovable character than he was when we began. Data, when it really works between two people, it's not like anything you've ever experienced. The rewards are far greater than simple friendship. How far, sir? That's what I'm hoping you're going to find out. Data was extremely android-like when we first met him. He was first tinkering with exploring the human condition and wanting to become more human and all the Pinocchio analogies that were thrown out in the first couple of years. I am not your puppet anymore. Basically, from the very beginning, Gene Roddenberry's notion about the character was that he would begin sort of as the Blanc tabloid, and really kind of mechanical and not particularly human, and through osmosis and being around human beings for the years, that by the end of his journey, he would be as close to being human as possible, and still not.
What were you just thinking?
In that particular moment, I was reconfiguring the warp field parameters, analyzing the collected works of Charles Dickens, calculating the maximum pressure I could safely apply to your lips, considering a new food supplement for Spot.
I'm glad I was
Romantically, Counselor Troy has had her ups and downs. She's had a few emotional flings here and there. In the first season, we realized about midway through that she looked kind of like some kind of intergalactic cheerleader. She had a bizarre hairdo, and we've changed her look a number of times to take advantage of what a pretty lady Marina is.
This isn't just some experiment you're running, Data. Jenna is a living, breathing person with needs and feelings that have to be considered.
My programming may be inadequate to the task.
We're all more than the sum of our parts, Data. You'll have to be more than the sum of your programming.
Jodie was, I think, the youngest, or if not the youngest, one of the youngest of our characters when we first began.
Yeah, I guess the second or third season when Jodie left the bridge and basically came down here to take over in engineering. It gave the character a whole new life.
Shields and operative. I suggest we use the tractor beam to alter the other ship's trajectory. Mr. Worf, make it so. Engaging tractor beam. The character Worf has changed over the last 7 years, by virtue of the fact that I've always added something different to him every year. He had to come to terms with the fact that, even though he's always said he needs a Klingon woman.
Hungry? Don't give me that Klingon nonsense.
He has basically fallen for, in this last episode that we're doing, Deanna Troy.
Worf, I think it's all right to concentrate on our feelings. Yours and mine.
Counselor, what's today's date? The date. Stardate 47988.
Captain, what's wrong?
47988. The final episode has the captain moving backwards and forwards in time and continuing to encounter his colleagues in those time periods. We go 7 years back. In fact, we actually go back to a point just before the series began. We see scenes that you might have seen in the pilot had they been written.
Well, then, if I may be so bold, sir, you're in for a treat. The Enterprise is quite a ship.
I'm sure she is.
And there she is.
Coming up, the award-winning production team reveals special designs created for the 2-hour season finale. Plus, I'll uncover a few enterprising secrets when we return. Ever since the very beginning of the show, the bridge of the Enterprise has often been the center of action for many of the crew's missions, and that includes our season finale. This is where the captain and myself might look out into space and see a Romulan warbird decloaking or some amazing space anomaly out there somewhere. But if you ever wondered what it really looks like, well, it's quite different than what you see on television. Now, when the large view screen is needed for a scene with actors standing in front of it, our crew moves in a large set piece and lowers a huge blue curtain which sinks into the floor. Then whatever my character is reacting to, be it a ship or a spatial anomaly, is optically edited into the show at a later date. Damage report! Tester, what's coming from all over the ship? Starboard nacelle sustained a direct impact. We are affecting drive plasma. Initiating emergency core shutdown. Initial damage failure with electric control. This is the bridge. All hands to emergency escape pod. Did you ever wonder how we accomplished that violent rocking motion as if we were just struck by a photon torpedo blast? Well, sometimes it can be a two-step process. One, the camera filming the scene can shake back and forth. And two, the actors are choreographed to lurch in unison. After 7 years, we've got it down to a science. When great sailing ships are launched, you'll often see a gold plaque like this one. They include the names of the crew, the engineers, the designers who built the vessel. On the Enterprise, you'll find a very special list of names. Admiral Gene Roddenberry, Admiral Michael Piller, Admiral Rick Berman, and the newly rephrased, politically correct motto, to boldly go where no one has gone before. One of the other people on this plaque is Richard James, who is responsible for creating the 24th century look you see each week on The Next Generation.
The production designer is responsible, basically, for the look of the show. So it would incorporate all the elements that are physical as well as the matte shots and the designing of sets.
And that includes a wide range of architectural styles.
I must say, this is a fine place you have here.
From Data's Gothic manor built for the final episode, to the intricately detailed interiors of the board ship, to the Egyptian-style Klingon hall for which Richard James earned an Emmy Award. Over the years, you may have noticed scenes like Data hurling his brother Lore clear across the cargo bay, Worf battling a fierce alien opponent on the holodeck, Picard leaping out of the way of deadly phaser fire, or a tremendous lightning bolt blasting Counselor Troy backwards. These kinds of action scenes are essential ingredients in adventure shows like Star Trek, and they often require skilled stuntmen. But once in a while, an actor boldly performs their own stunts, sometimes with mixed results.
The stunt is that the wind blows and a storm comes in and we get blown over. Let's go, move! Let's do it! I flung myself back onto my coccyx, which I heard crack virtually, and it was a print. I was immobile on the floor, of course. Couldn't walk for 3 weeks, and when I did finally see the episode, I was this big on the screen. It could have been Worf in Troy's costume, and we wouldn't have known the difference, so I learned my lesson.
I'll never forget an episode from the first season, Skin of Evil. Riker was sucked into a pit of black slime. So I asked the powers that be, what is this stuff? They said, don't worry, it's fine. It's Metamucil and black printer's ink. Naturally, I dove in. In the pit was an elevator, which forced me up through the scum and then vomited me onto the beach covered with Metamucil and black printer's ink. When the scene was over, LeVar Burton, as Geordi, walked over, leaned down, looked at me and said, Frakes, I never would have done that.
Don't move.
Is you alright?
I'm fine, sir, no.
Each year, Star Trek's production offices are inundated with a galaxy of potential stories for our characters. Only a small number of these stories ever make it to the screen. And an even fewer number of writers are asked to join the writing staff. One of the most talented screenwriters to join our staff in recent years is now an executive producer on The Next Generation. One of my favorites, Jerry Taylor.
I think I was hired on the show because of my ability to tap into the human condition and to dramatize stories about people's inner feelings.
Sorry. We're a part of each other. I know that he has caused you pain, but I also know that you love him.
Jerry Taylor, have certainly made an effort to make the women's roles stronger. We've been in positions of power more often, in the captain's chair or leading a mission somewhere. Helen, get us out of here. Right, sir. We've lost warp engines. Evasive maneuvers, full impulse. We're not willing to do a story that could be done on any other show on television. It has to be unique. It has to have some kind of oblique angle. It has to turn an issue on its ear. We want to come out with a fresh approach so that when people see Star Trek, they see something unusual, something they can't get anyplace else.
I need you to remain linked to the others, so that their strength and their confidence can help you. I need you, Govo. I need you to help me build a future for the Borg. I can't do it without you.
The idea of cults, of controlling personalities that are charismatic, who have the power to get great numbers of people in their sway, seems a very important idea, and we wanted to dramatize that, and I think we did that with some success.
I need to know I can count on you. As proof, I want you to kill Picard. No, that would be wrong. It was terrific dealing with Jerry. You know, it's all about that. It really is. It's about, you've heard it before, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, and there's nothing truer than that. Coming up, the universe of Star Trek from Spock to deep space, plus some new Starfleet creations for the final episode that will appear 25 years into the future. This is engineering, the equivalent of an engine room on a large battleship. And behind me is where those ever-popular dilithium crystals fuel the warp drive engines. Sort of like coal being shoveled into a furnace. And whenever there's a crisis, this is where you'll find Geordi scrambling to save the Enterprise. If we're going to maintain our realignment progressions, we shouldn't be pushing warp 8 for at least an hour. Living a Borg survivor on board. We'll need to neutralize the homing signal. Ready for sending or receiving transmission of any kind. I'll set up a subspace damping field around the detention cell. Very well. In the last scene, you may have heard Geordi spouting a lot of what is fondly referred to as techno-babble. When a story is first written, there are often sections of dialogue left blank, with just the word tech inserted. In these cases, the producers of The Next Generation turn to a few special consultants for help. My job is to look over the script, see if the writers have called for any new hand props, any new spacecraft designs, and also check for any technical flags that the writers may have put in, looking for scientific or technical terms. Any of this, any of the real-world science, we can then adapt to what we do in our props, in the sets. We like to, think of ourselves as backups, in particular scientific areas. I'm implanting nanocortical fibers in your cerebrum. They're designed to learn and mimic your neural firing patterns. One of the questions I've been asked time and time again is, where in the heck is the bathroom on the Enterprise? Well, there's only one, and if you look very closely, you'll see it's located right here. This elaborate cross-section of the Enterprise showing every deck, every room, is one of the many detailed graphics which allow Geordi and the crew to check various ship activities. Suppose I punch a few buttons over here. Suddenly, a schematic computer display pops on, depicting a few futuristic abnormalities. The people responsible for creating these high-tech designs have written volumes of material on Star Trek. They're some of the most valued members of the production staff because if they don't already know all there is to know about Star Trek, they're usually asked to invent it. What Wendy's working on here is a backlit graphic which is going to be on Beverly Crusher's ship. When she's done, this is going to be adhered to a piece of plexiglass, or behind a piece of plexiglass, which will give the illusion that this is a very high-tech, computer-generated touchscreen. This is the dedication plaque for the Starship Pasteur, which is Beverly Crusher's ship. Down at the very bottom of the plaque, where on the Enterprise it says to boldly go where no one has gone before, it has here a quote from the Hippocratic Oath, which physicians take when they become doctors. Walking around these elaborate sets, I've discovered some interesting Star Trek historical information. For instance, when the production team for Next Generation was building their sets, they were able to incorporate some important parts from the original series. These lights in the ceiling of our transporter pad were actually the lights in the floor from the original transporter pad. Flip the camera. I'll show you what I mean. Ever wonder if that's a real starfield outside those windows? Actually, it's a very large, beautifully designed drape hung from the rafters, adorned with lots of twinkling sequins. They also use a large cylinder covered with black velvet, which turns slowly as they film the scene. Throughout the long history of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future has expanded to the outer reaches of the final frontier. Every mission opens the door to new worlds. Plus, new races of aliens may be introduced alongside numerous Federation members that have existed since the original series first aired in the mid-60s. We thought it might be interesting to take a look at the world of Star Trek and all the alien cultures we've met in the last 7 years. Not move. What? Long live the Klingon Empire. Can somebody get me a napkin? Get off my ship. I do so only because it suits me to leave. I will not promise never to appear again. Making a special appearance for the series finale is perhaps the Federation's greatest villain, and the first alien threat to appear on the Next Generation, the evil Q. The character of Q has changed in the last 7 years. He was first brought on as kind of an omnipotent, somewhat humorless being, and he's changed. If anything, he's become more human, in a way. Smells awful, doesn't it? Oh, that sulfur and volcanic ash. Really must speak to the maid. I think John Delancey is a fabulous actor who created a character from day one that was very memorable, and we have, as a result, tried to bring that character back as often as we could in a way that was believable, both on the Next Generation and on Deep Space Nine.
I don't belong here, sir. I'm supposed to be dead.
We've always tried to find reasons to bring Denise back into the fold because she's always managed to remain a part of the family even though she hasn't been around. And a part of my crew.
I know. Captain Picard approved my request for transfer.
But I don't want you here.
You need me here. Show me someone in your crew who can do the job better than I can. I did yesterday's Enterprise, which was a show in which I came back in the 3rd season because there was a rip in time and space and a ship from the past came into the present. So I started playing with this idea, and I sort of thought, what if Tasha had a child that now would be about the age of her mother when Lieutenant Yar was killed, but was raised by Romulans? Excuse me, I'm just finishing up a speech for you, Mr. Spock. I rather enjoy writing. I don't get to do it very often in this job.
Perhaps you would be happier in another job.
During the 5th season of our series, one of the most historic events in Star Trek's legacy occurred, when the legendary Ambassador Spock from the original Star Trek series guest starred with the crew from the Next Generation.
You may know Sarek better than his own son does. My father and I never chose to meld. I offer you the chance to touch what he shared with me.
As a result, Unification became one of the highest-rated episodes in our 7-year history. In addition, 2 other beloved crew members from the original series have made appearances on our show.
Welcome aboard the Enterprise, Captain Scott. Thank you, sir, and call me Scotty. Well, it's a new ship, but she's got the right name. Now, you remember that, you hear? I will, sir. You treat her like a lady. And she'll always bring you home.
When the producers decided to launch another Star Trek series entitled Deep Space Nine, a few characters who first appeared in The Next Generation were asked to come aboard.
What is present course, Con? It's what it's been all along, sir. Direct heading to Farpoint Station. Confirmed, we are on that heading, sir. You know anything about Farpoint Station, sir? Sounds like a very dull place. We've heard that we may find it rather interesting. Yeah, I was transporter chief of the Enterprise, and now I'm what's known as the chief operations officer. Basically, my role here is I'm kind of like the chief engineer of the whole of the station.
So, tell me about the Paradas. They're gonna be here when? Tomorrow?
What do you want to know about the Paradas?
It's always good business to know about new customers before they walk in your door.
And which rule of acquisition is that?
At the very beginning of Star Trek The Next Generation, in the very first season, I was one of the original 4 Ferengi, and in the episode I had perhaps the most to say. And I sort of put my feet in the wet cement of that race of people.
You work with your females, calm them, and force them to wear clothing. Sickening.
Next, a special guest leads the Next Generation Orchestra, more behind the scenes from the final episode, and watch what happens when I make a surprise visit to a Star Trek convention. Fans have been coming to Star Trek conventions for years, and Pasadena recently hosted one of the largest of its kind ever assembled. These events allow everyone to celebrate their favorite show with friends, buy collectible items, and see many of their favorite stars in person. Like me. Look at what happens when I pay an unannounced visit to an event already in progress. Obviously, the fans in attendance didn't expect to see me. I had a great time touring the many displays and booths.
This is the dealer's room. Let's see what they've got. Oh, action figures! They've got it all here. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Dorn. His phaser is always on stun. You can't get enough Patrick Stewart memorabilia. I've always said that. This will be me, and this will be old Baldy, and my lovely anxiety. You better believe it. You see what you can find at these conventions. Educational and fun. Bye-bye! Never seen so many trekkers in my life. Sure. What's your name? Who should I make it out to?
T-Ray's fan, Brittany. Love William Shatner.
T-Ray's fan, Brittany. Love, William Shatner. Very nice. You know, my name is really Patrick Stewart. It's very nice to meet you. In the last 7 years, the producers have faced many challenges, including the often difficult task of transforming outdoor locations from the 20th century into extraordinary planets and worlds from the 24th century. And for this scene in the final episode, the producers had to find a way to recreate Captain Picard's vineyard at his home in 24th century France. To find out how this was done, we came here to Temecula, California, in the Callaway Vineyards. I had a chance to talk to our director, Vineyard Colby, and the director of photography, Jonathan West. Well, anytime you're outside on location, you lose one basic ingredient, and that's the control of your environment. You are at the mercy of the weather, time of day. As much as I'd like to believe so, I can't stop the sun. So when it goes down, that's it. We go home. I want those mountains clearer. Here, I'll order that. Thank you. This scene is pretty well in the beginning of the episode, or of the particular story. This is the future. Picard has retired, has become an ambassador, and is now retired on his vineyard, and is being visited by Geordi. And action, please. Captain, we've got a problem with the warp core, or the phase inducers, or some of the damn thing. Geordi. Hello, Captain. Should I call you ambassador? Oh, I haven't been called that for some time either. How about Mr. Picard? How about Jean-Luc? Whenever we don't have the luxury of shooting outdoors, there's stage 16 on the Paramount lot dedicated to exploring strange new worlds. The cast and production crew have nicknamed this place Planet Hell. And between the lights and the dirt and the smoke and the fog, it gets hot as... We've managed to transform Planet Hell into such diverse locales as an icy planet for the episode I Borg, a dark Romulan cavern for the epic meeting between Ambassador Spock and Captain Picard in Unification, and a high precipice which I stood on in the last outpost. Right next to stage 16 is the Paramount scoring stage. We're here for the audition, where a full orchestra, led by Dennis McCarthy, is required to arrange brand new compositions for every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. As a special treat, Marina Sirtis was invited to lead the musicians as guest conductor for this session. Okay, is everybody ready? The heat is on. As she waves her baton, she listens to the music mix in her headphones as the TV monitor displays the scene that is being scored. Imagine you're a Klingon. You've just been in a brawl with a Borg and he's ripped a big hole in your uniform. Where the heck in the 24th century are you going to find new threads? Have no fear. Because for the last few years, one man has been in charge of dressing up the entire Star Trek universe. Bob Blackman. So I received a script for All Good Things, a 2-hour movie of the week, essentially. I read it. I do a breakdown of it. In it says, for instance, with people appear in the future in uniform. I did some drawings. I took them to Rick. He agreed with me on my approach, and I come back here. We then had some fit models come in, and we tried them on to see how they would work. They seemed to work, and we went into production to make the 25 that we had to make. You
You wouldn't believe how much you've aged in 7 years on a TV series. I was a young man when I started. Now things have changed. Actually, I'm in makeup, believe me. For a scene that takes place 25 years in the future, the man responsible for this makeup and for most of the alien makeups you see on the show, the king, Michael Westmore. Jonathan, can you look at that? I'm on the set. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. I think our most memorable character over the years, for me, makeup-wise, was from a show called The Offspring, where Data had an alien android who selected a human female to become a human female. We cut off every sense and function that the man had, and it took 4 hours to put him into it. He would work for 12, 13 hours for the day, and it took 2 to 3 hours to clean him up at night. And I literally had a makeup artist get in the shower and scrub with him.
They're going to start putting the makeup on in about 10 minutes. This is just the prep.
He created this fantastic makeup for Dr. Sung, and it was such a good makeup, because I didn't know how I was going to play this part. The man was about 100, and I'd never played a character that old before, and I had no idea how to do it. And couldn't find a character until I got into the makeup, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I knew who the guy was. So I really think Westmore's makeup job was 3/4 of that performance.
You found your long-lost father, and he's alive. It is really you.
Coming up, a special look ahead at the future of Star Trek, including an exclusive preview of our dramatic 2-hour finale and the upcoming feature film. Well, so far we've shown you a significant portion of Star Trek's universe, but in some respects, we've only scratched the surface of this enormous phenomenon. As we end one chapter of The Next Generation, the Emmy Award-winning series Star Trek Deep Space Nine continues to warp speed into bold new territory with each new episode from the 24th century. We felt it had to be a distinctly different format than The Next Generation, and of course the original Star Trek series. We decided that we would pick a space station to put it on, and to put this space station on the edge of a new frontier.
Computer, new heading. 180 Mark 31, to the wormhole.
In addition, our cast is joining forces with members of the original series cast, including Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, in the 7th installment from the Star Trek film legacy. As far as the storyline goes, I can tell you, well, drama, adventure, life, death, Klingons, red alert, everything you've come to expect from both of Starfleet's heroic legends.
I'm very hopeful that it will be the best of all the Star Trek features. And that's saying quite a lot, because we've done some really fine features at drama. So we have a solar observatory, which is a very interesting new element in Star Trek lore. Stellar cartography is a new set. It's on the Enterprise D. They're commanded by Jean-Luc Picard for the last 7 seasons. It's the most important set, I think, in the feature, because it's where you learn everything you need to know about the end of the story.
Hey, Mark? Captain Kirk. Yeah, I'd be honored if you would give the order to get out of the way. Take us out. I think we're going to see a terrific story, and most importantly, because I've always argued this from the very beginning, it is going to combine certain members of the original crew with our crew. And I always felt that any feature film that we made, any first feature film, should be in the form of a transitional film, and this is, and it's been done very excitingly. But that's not all. Production is already underway for a 3rd television series from the 24th century entitled Star Trek Voyager. Producers Rick Berman, Mike Keller, and Jerry Taylor, the rest of the production crew, are busily making preparations for this new television series set to premiere January 1995.
We're all very excited about the prospects for the new series, Star Trek Voyager. For me, any chance to come up with a new spacecraft, even if it is steeped in Starfleet style and Starfleet colors, we still have a chance to design something new and interesting.
Speak. And action! Well, since all good things must come to an end, I think it would be appropriate to end our program with a special segment on our very last adventure.
Will, I know what's happening. I know what's causing the anomaly. We have to go back. So the show deals with Picard finding himself helplessly being tossed within 3 time frames: the present, the past, and also in the future.
This is not my time. I don't belong here. What?
How would Gene have reacted to the ending of this?
I have a feeling with a lot of emotion. Gene was a surprisingly emotional man, given that he was so imposing and quite intimidating as a person. There was a very gentle, very sensitive center to him. And I had the feeling, and I somehow suspect that he didn't. This is different from how it was with the original Council, Bill and the others, but I may be wrong, and they may be offended about what I'm going to say, but my instinct was that Gene had a relationship with all of us, which, despite my great age, and your moderate age, was close to a relationship of a father to his children. I felt that we were part of a brood, so I'm sure he would be very emotional about the end of today. I know that you are the finest crew in the fleet, and I would trust my life with each one of you. To bring the saga of The Next Generation full circle, the producers felt it was very fitting to bring back the character of Q, who was there from the very beginning. Well, this time I'm not your enemy. I'm not the one that causes the annihilation of mankind. You are. Commander, assemble the senior staff and go to Red Alert. We have a bigger problem than I thought. Red Alert! We're gonna need a ship.
He's Jean-Luc Picard, and if he wants to go on one more mission, that's what we're going to do.
Engage. May whatever god you believe in. 2 Klingon attack cruisers decloaking. Have mercy on your soul. Another ship is decloaking. It's the Enterprise. Lay a course for the center of the anomaly. We can't stay, Captain. We have to. Everything depends on it. We have to save humanity. Initiating static warp shell now. Goodbye, Jean-Luc. I'm gonna miss you. We must eject the core. No, we have such potential. But then again, all good things must come to an end. Looking back over the 7 years, I can't help but recall our very first season, when we were still finding our footing in the final frontier. The great bird of the galaxy, Gene Roddenberry, took me under his wing early on. I would often go up to his office, he would coach me on my character, we'd share a few laughs. And he'd talk to me about his remarkable vision of the future. One day he told me this: in the 24th century, there will be no hunger, and there will be no greed. And he believed it, he made me believe it, and to this day, it's one of many philosophies that have stirred our imagination and kept this legend alive for over 25 years. Thank you, Gene, for creating an extraordinary world we'd all like to live in, and a wondrous future to which we all can aspire.